Hello you guys, welcome to my 2023 Walt Disney World Vacation Planning Guide. I thought it was time to update my planning guide video since so much has changed just in the past year. Whether you are planning your first Disney vacation or maybe you haven't been in several years, it can be very overwhelming. So I'm gonna take you through the planning process from start to finish, everything you need to know, and my goal is that you would feel equipped in the planning process and knowledgeable heading into your Disney trip. But before we dive in, my name is Bekah. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you've stumbled across this video. I share all kinds of Disney planning content, tips for taking a toddler to Disney World, as well as vlogs from our latest Disney adventures. So I would love for you to stick around and hit that red subscribe button and go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And let's go ahead and dive into all the Disney World planning. All right, I am quite literally going to walk you through the entire process from start to finish of planning a Disney vacation. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, settle in, and let's get started. The first step in planning your Disney vacation is deciding what time of year you want to go. I will add first, there is no bad time to go to Disney. If your schedule only allows you to go 1 week out of the entire year and that's your only option, go that week. You're going to have a fantastic time no matter what time of year it is. But if you do have some flexibility in your schedule, there are a couple things to consider. The first thing to think about is weather. There are a lot of variables here. If you are not a fan of 100-degree humid Florida heat, I would consider looking into going in the cooler winter months like January or February. That's going to be a great time of year to go if you are trying to avoid the heat. And another thing to think about is hurricane season, which is late summer, early fall. So if you're thinking about going during those months, it is going to rain a lot on your vacation. So take that into consideration. If that's something that you know would ruin your trip, try to avoid hurricane season and go earlier in the spring or go during the winter months where rain is going to be a little less. But if you go during those hurricane season months, it is going to rain a lot. But if you go in with the right expectations and you come prepared for the rain, you should be totally fine. But it's something to think about if weather is going to play a role in what time of year you travel. The second thing to think about is major holidays. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Easter, any of those big holidays are going to draw a lot of crowds. I have been to Disney for New Year's Eve, and let me tell you, it is a different kind of crowded. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, but at the same time, I went into that trip knowing that the crowds were gonna be like that, so I had my expectations set accordingly. So if you have your heart set on Disney, on Christmas Day, then go for it, do it, but set your expectations accordingly. But if you are wanting to avoid the crazy crowd madness, try to steer clear of some of those major holidays and look at your calendar and see if the week you're wanting to travel happens to be the week before or after a major holiday, and maybe try to avoid some of those holidays like Easter and 4th of July and things like that. So those are a couple things to think about when you are deciding what time of year to travel. But again, there's no bad time, but if you do have the flexibility, definitely consider weather and holidays. Okay, step number 2 in the Disney World planning process is creating a budget. And I realize you may be thinking, okay, where do you even begin? I don't even know what an average Disney trip should cost. How in the world do I even create a budget? So I have actually created a Disney budget template, and I will have it linked down below in the description box. But this template is going to help you think through everything that you may not even realize you need to budget for. This template is completely customizable, and what you're able to do is plug in different numbers and kind of play around with a trip scenario to see what is going to fit your budget best. So you can plug in different resort costs and how much would it be if we did a 5-day ticket as compared to a 3-day ticket with the park hopper, and you can kind of create this budget, and then you're able to have a visual of how much this trip would cost, and then you you can adjust it accordingly. So I highly recommend checking out this budget template. It's really gonna help you think through all of the different pieces of planning a Disney vacation, and it does a lot of the back work for you. It factors in tax for your dining and really cool stuff. So definitely check it out, but start with a budget and then you'll be able to move forward. All right, the next step in our planning process, now that we have a budget, is deciding how long your vacation is going to be and deciding how many park days you want to incorporate. So if you're wanting to visit all the Disney parks, you'll obviously need 4 full days. But if 4 full days is not in your budget and you're thinking along the lines of 2 or 3 days, then the conversation is going to be, well, which 1 or 2 parks do we want to cut out? So that's the next step, is deciding how long your trip is going to be. How many days do we want to do a resort day, a pool day, kind of a Disney Springs day, and then visit 2 parks? Do we want to visit 4 parks? So map out which parks are a priority for your family and how many days fit into your budget. And if you are needing to cut out 1 or 2 parks because you only have 2 or 3 full days and you're thinking, how do I decide which park not to go to? We want to do all of them, but it's just not realistic this time. Check out and see what each park has to offer. So for instance, I have a 2.5-year-old, and the park that we normally eliminate with her if we only have 3 days is Hollywood Studios, just because that park has a lot of the bigger attractions that she's not able to go on. So right now in this season of life, that's the park that I cut out. But maybe you have teenagers and Hollywood Studios is gonna be the park that everyone is most excited about. So it's gonna look different for every family, but look into what each park has to offer, look into the shows and attractions. You can really just Google a list of every single park and see what every park offers and kind of determine from there. The next step in the planning process is deciding where you're going to stay. And this is honestly my favorite part of planning a Disney trip, is choosing what resort we're gonna stay at, what room type, and finding the best deal. I just love this part of the planning process. The big question I get a lot is deciding if you should stay on or off property. On property basically means it's a Disney-owned resort. Off property is a non-Disney resort or hotel or Airbnb or anything along those lines. That's what off property means. The first thing I would say, if you are deciding between on or off property and what's going to be the best fit for your family, is determining what your priorities are. Off property usually gives you more for your money. It's just less expensive than a Disney resort. Actually, it's significantly less expensive than a Disney resort, and you'll have access to larger accommodation options like Airbnbs or vacation rentals if you're needing more space for a family and you have a large family and you need multiple bedrooms. This is going to be a great option. You will need a rental car though, so that's another thing to factor into your budget when you are considering off property, because you don't have transportation to and from the parks. So that's kind of the pros and cons of off property. And then on property, staying at a Disney resort is going to put you right in the middle of the magic. So if you are not wanting to leave the Disney bubble and that's really important to you, then on property may be the way to go. Depending which resort category you choose, whether you go with deluxe, moderate, or value, you will most likely pay more money to stay on property. It's just more expensive, but again, you are right in the middle of the magic, and you have all of the transportation perks, and you have access to early theme park entry. This means that you get to enter the parks 30 minutes before any other regular guest. And I know 30 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference when you are thinking about how many rides you're able to accomplish and wait times, and I'm telling you, it makes a difference. So if that's important to you, it might be worth staying on property. So those are a couple of the pros and cons of on property versus off property, but it really comes down to determining what your family's priorities are. The next step in planning your Disney vacation is creating a rough itinerary for your trip. So now that you've decided how long your trip is going to be, how many park days you have, and what resort or hotel you're going to be staying at, the next thing is going to be creating that itinerary and kind of starting to map out what's important to you, what park days are going to be on which day, and kind of starting to map things out. What I typically do when I'm deciding what parks to do in which order and on which day, there's really no science to it, so you can't get this wrong. Like, you can't visit the parks in a wrong order. But what I'll do is I will start by looking at the calendar and park hours, and I'll see if there are any special ticketed events that cause the parks to close early on certain days. Depending on what time of year I'm traveling, I will look at the Halloween parties and the Christmas parties. Those are going to cause Magic Kingdom to close at 6 p.m. So that's something to think about. If you are wanting a full Magic Kingdom day, try to avoid those party days. Another one to consider is the after hours event that has now returned in 2023. So make sure to check the calendar for Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom, or you could plan on purchasing tickets and you could coordinate accordingly. But that's kind of where I start when I'm determining what parks to do, and I'll eliminate, okay, well, there's a party on Monday at Magic Kingdom, so I'm gonna do Magic Kingdom on Tuesday, and I'm gonna do Epcot on Monday. So that's kind of how I start piecing it together. The next thing I'll do is I will look at park pass availability. So obviously, if Hollywood Studios is sold out one of the days on my trip, that rules out, well, I can't go to Hollywood Studios on Wednesday, so I'll have to go on Thursday or another day. So kind of piecing it together that way, but always check the theme park availability calendar and just double check that the parks that you are wanting to go to are in fact available on those days, and book those park reservations early. And we'll get into tickets here in the next little bit, but I did want to mention park pass availability because that does play a huge role in the order of parks you're able to go to if a park is sold out on a certain day. But other than looking at park hours and theme park availability, there's really no special strategy when it comes to the order of park days. Some people love to start their trip at Magic Kingdom. Some people love to end it at Magic Kingdom. It's just a preference thing. So don't spend too much time overthinking this part. The next piece of creating this rough itinerary, now that you have mapped out which parks you're gonna go to in which order, is making a dining reservation list of your must-dos and kind of mapping out which restaurants coordinate to the location of the park you're gonna be at on that day. I will add, you do not have to do sit-down table service meals to have a good time at Disney. You can absolutely do quick service meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and still have a great vacation. So do not feel pressured into making all these dining reservations and spending all this money on food, because there are some amazing quick service food options and some really great quick service locations. So I wanted to start with that because if you're looking to save money, dining is a really simple way to cut down on costs. But if there are some restaurants that you are wanting to try, you will absolutely need to make a reservation. So count on the reservation. It's a must. You can't go to Disney without dining reservations. I always feel so bad for the families who don't know they have to make reservations and they just walk up to the hostess stand and ask for a table and they are always turned away. There's always a slight chance of being seated or put on a wait list, but don't risk it, just make the reservation. And dining reservations can be made on your My Disney Experience account 60 days in advance from your check-in day. And if you are staying off property, you can book 1 day at a time. If you are staying on property, you can book 60 days out plus the length of your stay. So if you are staying 5 days at a Disney resort, you can essentially book 65 days out from that check-in day, if that makes sense. Something to be aware of, if you are traveling to Disney, count that 60-day window backwards and you can kind of map out what day that dining window is gonna open for you. And it does open at 6 a.m. Eastern time. It is 5 a.m. Central time for me, so I'm up at 4:45 a.m. to book dining. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's what you gotta do if there are some priority restaurants that you are really wanting to experience. And when it comes to creating this rough itinerary and mapping out your dining, something to think about when you are coordinating meals for your park days. And what I mean by coordinating your dining to your park days is being intentional with dining locations. So for instance, if you're really wanting to experience breakfast at Boma at Animal Kingdom Lodge, it's a really cool experience, but you are planning to head to Magic Kingdom for the day. That may not be the best fit on that day because of the distance and the travel time getting to and from those locations. It just may not be the best fit. A better fit would be if you are going to Animal Kingdom, stopping and getting breakfast at Animal Kingdom Lodge on your way to Animal Kingdom would be a much better fit and make way more sense travel-wise. So that's what I mean by coordinating your dining. And if you're at Magic Kingdom, try to choose some of those monorail resort restaurants or restaurants within the park. So again, be intentional with mapping out which restaurants match up with which park you're going to when you are creating this rough itinerary. Moving on, the next step in the planning process is purchasing your park tickets and making your theme park reservations. This is pretty self-explanatory, but the one thing you will need to consider is whether or not you want to purchase the park hopper, which this will give you access to go to as many parks as you want every single day. Or if you choose to skip the park hopper option, then you get access to one park per day. Personally, we skip the park hopper. It's just a way that we can save money, and especially with a toddler, making it to one park is more than enough for us. But a lot of people love the flexibility of being able to visit more than one park in one day. And if that is something you're thinking about, something to know about the park hopper is that currently with your theme park reservation, you must scan into that first park before you can visit your second park. Park hopping opens at 2 p.m., so you can't access that second park. You cannot scan in until 2 p.m. But just know you have to scan into that first park first, or you will not be able to get into that second park. And you don't need a park reservation for any of the parks you plan to visit after 2 p.m. I hope that makes sense. As long as you plan on visiting that first park first that you have made a theme park reservation for at 2 p.m., you are free to go wherever you'd like after you have scanned in. So something to know about park hopping rules and theme park reservations, but my number one thing is to book those park reservations as soon as possible. If you're able to plan a few months out, book them a few months out. That way you don't even have to think about it and your park days are locked in. The next step in the planning process is booking transportation if you plan to fly. Now, we have driven to Disney before and we really loved having the freedom and flexibility of having our own car, being able to kind of pack whatever we wanted to pack and not having to worry about whether or not it can go through security or baggage weight limits and things like that. So we really enjoyed driving, but if you do plan to fly, there are a few things you need to think about. If you are staying off property at a non-Disney resort, you will most likely need a rental car. Another option is Uber or Lyft, but that can add up quick depending on what your plans are. So do the math and kind of see what makes sense. But I would recommend having a rental car. At least for us, this has made more sense, especially with a baby and a toddler. I just like having the flexibility of that and having a car seat with us. And if you are staying on property, you do not need a rental car because you have all of the transportation perks at all of the Disney resorts, which is so nice. But a lot of times we still like having the flexibility of a rental car even if we're staying at a Disney resort. So it all comes down to preference, and that is another thing that you can cut out to save money. If you are, budgeting, and that's one of the reasons that you are staying at a Disney resort is so that you can take advantage of that Disney transportation perk. So again, it really comes down to preference, but that rental car, if you are staying on or off property, is something to think about. If you are staying on property and you don't plan on using a rental car and you plan on taking advantage of those Disney transportation perks, then something to think about is that you will need to book transportation from the MCO airport to your Disney resort. There are quite a few options. So you have Mears Connect and Sunshine Flyer. These are both a group shared transportation service. So you're gonna pay a one-way fee per person. So the more people in your family, the more expensive it's gonna be. But the biggest thing to note here is that you're going to make multiple stops at different resorts along the way, again, because this is a shared transportation bus service. So something to consider. But if it's just two people traveling or two people and one child, this may be the best option for you. You could also book a Lyft or an Uber if you're looking to go directly to your resort. Another option would be booking a private transportation service like Tiffany Town Car or Orlando Transportation by Mike. You can book these one way or round trip, but depending on how large your party is, sometimes booking private transportation makes more sense and it's more cost effective. So again, do the math and see what makes sense for your family and depending on how many people you're traveling with. So there's lots of different options, but you'll need to book something if you are staying at a Disney resort and you are not renting a car. You will need transportation from MCO to your resort. The next thing you'll want to do in your Disney planning process is deciding if there are any extra special ticketed events that you would like to add on to your vacation. So you have the dessert party, there's different dinner packages, there's the Halloween party, the Christmas party, an after hours event, there's a fireworks cruise out on the water for Magic Kingdom and Epcot. So there are a lot of different special ticketed events and different add-ons that you can factor into your budget and that you can add into your vacation. The Halloween party, Christmas party, and after hours events can be booked several months in advance. So I would recommend getting your tickets sooner than later, but then dessert parties and dinner packages, those can be booked 60 days out. These ticketed events are definitely a splurge, but they are absolutely not necessary to have a great time at Disney. So don't feel pressured into having to add on any of these extra things to have a good time. But if you are celebrating or you're looking for something to splurge on or something to factor in that would make your trip really memorable, definitely consider one of these special ticketed events. They really add a unique factor, and it's just one of our favorite things to do. If we're able to factor in the dessert party or an after hours event, they are just some of our favorite things to do at Disney. So I highly recommend, but just know it's absolutely not necessary and don't feel like you have to do these things to have a good time. The next step in the Disney planning process, and this part kind of gets me a little giddy, I don't know why, I love it. It's booking your Disney dining reservations, which we've kind of already touched on, but you guys, okay, let's just talk dining because, I love it. Okay, since we already have our rough itinerary already made, we know what park days we're gonna go to on which day, we've kind of made a list of which restaurants at each park or different resorts we're gonna go to on which day, and we kind of have an idea of what we're gonna go for, right? So your 60-day window comes, and I'm telling you, don't wing it. Have a list of your priority restaurants written out, ready to go at that window that I mentioned, that 6 a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. Central time, or whatever time zone you are. Know the time that your booking window opens and be ready to go just a few minutes before 6 a.m. Eastern time. So let's say you're staying at a Disney resort and you're staying for 5 days. So you are able to book your Disney dining, like I mentioned, 65 days out. So any really hard to get reservations, any of those popular restaurants like Cinderella's Royal Table, Breakfast at Topolino's, Space 220, Chef Mickey's, really any of the character meals, Crystal Palace, those are all gonna go really quick. So factor those in towards the end of your vacation so that way you're able to have the upper hand booking 65 days out where not everyone is able to book 65 days out. Most people are booking 60 days out. I hope that makes sense, but if you have your heart set on Cinderella's Royal Table and you have the ability to book 65 days out, put Cinderella's Royal Table on your last day. That way you have more time slot options and you may not feel quite as stressed trying to get that reservation, and it's more of a guarantee if you put it at the end of your trip as compared to your day one, booking it at 60 days out where it will most likely already be gone from the other people who have already booked their 65 days out 5 days prior to you. So I don't know if I'm making this super confusing, but I really hope that makes sense. So map out your dining and make sure that any of those really popular, difficult reservations, put those at the end of your vacation. And maybe you're staying off property and you're watching this part thinking, okay, great, well, what about me? Am I not gonna be able to get any of these reservations because we're staying at an Airbnb? So here's the thing, yes, you will have to be up 60 days out every single day of your entire length of your trip. So if you have to be up at 5 a.m. and your trip is 4 days long, you'll be up booking reservations every single morning 4 days in a row. But don't lose heart if you're not able to get Cinderella's Royal Table or Crystal Palace, because my secret weapon for Disney dining is called mouse dining. I will have it linked down below, but basically you can input any reservation that you are looking for, and when there's a cancellation and it pops up, for the time you're looking for, on the day you're looking for the party size you're looking for, it's gonna send you a notification either by text or email. I believe it's $9 a month, and if you are planning, you know, your trip and you're at your 60-day window, you could really just utilize Mouse Dining for 2 months and try to get those reservations so you pay $18, which I think is 100% worth it. So anytime someone cancels something that you are looking for, Mouse Dining is gonna send you a text or an email, and you'll have to log in really quick to try to snag it. But it's a really great tool if you aren't able to get the reservation you're looking for 60 days out. Okay, now we have pretty much all of the big planning out of the way. So your entire Disney trip should be good to go, and now it's just some of those last minute things and getting ready for your trip. So as it gets closer, this part only applies if you're staying at a Disney resort, but you'll need to complete online check-in, and this could be done through your My Disney Experience account. The benefit of using online check-in is that, well, for one, you can avoid the actual check-in desk when you get to your resort, but you're able to link a credit card to your account and set a personal PIN number that's linked to your Magic Band. You can set your arrival time at the resort. That way, if the resort is able to give you an early check-in, they know what time you're arriving, and you can submit certain room requests. These are limited and they're a little more vague. So the room requests are going to be something like on the first floor or near an elevator or close to the lobby, something like that. So you can't put in a specific room number or give specific notes about what you're looking for in a room, but it does allow you to put in something like first floor or near the elevator. Online check-in ultimately allows you to skip the front desk and go straight to your room. When your room is ready, they send you a text and an email with the location of your room, and you're just able to go straight to your room. So it's really nice not having to mess with the front desk, and you can just head straight to your room, and that is the benefit of online check-in. The next step is to get familiar with Genie Plus and just know the basics. Don't wait until day one of your Disney trip to try to figure it out. Watch some videos here on YouTube and get familiar with the basics of how it works, how to book a lightning lane, kind of what the rules are with the 120-minute rule and booking them one at a time, things like that. I actually have a Genie Plus strategy video for each of the 4 parks. It's geared towards toddlers, so if you do have little ones, I'll have that playlist linked down below for you to check out, but I really just share my strategy and how I would go about utilizing Genie Plus for each of the parks with my toddler. So check that out if you have little ones. But the most important things to know is that Genie Plus is $15 per ticket per day. You're able to purchase Genie Plus the day of your park ticket starting at midnight. I personally don't wait up until midnight to purchase Genie Plus. I purchase it around 6:45. That way I can make my first selection when lightning lanes officially open at 7 a.m. And you can book them one at a time. So that is the 10-second overview of Genie Plus. Obviously there is so much more to know, but again, check out those videos if you have little ones and you want to know my strategy for each of the parks. There are also some other really great Genie Plus resources out there on YouTube as well. So do a little bit of research, but get familiar with it and know the basics. That way you can go into your park day feeling at least somewhat confident. And then after you conquer that first day, you'll get the hang of it. And I personally think it's worth it. So I recommend utilizing it, but know the basics and get familiar with it before your trip comes. All right, whew, you guys, we are like covering everything here. So the next step is gonna be scheduling your grocery delivery. So this may seem like, oh, you get groceries delivered at your Disney resort? I mean, yes. It's a real thing. So I'm telling you, it is so nice doing an Amazon Prime grocery delivery and having it sent to your resort. I do this 24 hours prior to our check-in arrival time. That way I can have our items waiting for us at Bell Services. It is so easy, you guys. I will have my Amazon Prime grocery delivery service video for Disney linked down below if you want to check it out. But we have not only had groceries delivered to our resort or off-property stay, we have had diapers delivered to us, formula, wipes, sunscreen, Anything that we didn't want to travel with or fly with, we had it sent directly to our resort. And it was so nice when I took my 10-month-old to Disney for the first time, having diapers and formula waiting for us at the resort. That way it didn't have to use up all this space in my suitcase, and I had what we needed to get us through a couple of days, and then everything else was waiting for us at the resort. So in addition to normal groceries, you can have toiletries sent, and again, diapers and formula, wipes. I mean, anything you need for your vacation, you can have it sent directly to your resort through Amazon Prime, and it will deliver to Bell Services. So I highly recommend doing this, because even if you don't have a full kitchen, having things like fruit and snacks, yogurt, a case of water, things that you can snack on in the morning or late night snacks, it's just nice having those things in your room, especially if you have kids. It's just really nice, and it's gonna save you some money from spending so much on snacks in the park. Another thing we'll do to save money is we will have breakfast in the room. So we'll have things like toast or cereal or oatmeal, yogurt, things like that in our room, and it saves us from having to purchase a full breakfast for our family. So again, highly recommend getting groceries or toiletry items or other products, or really anything you need delivered to your resort, anything you don't want to travel with, and do that 24 hours before your arrival check-in time. All right, that wraps it up for my 2023 Walt Disney World Vacation Planning Guide. This was so much fun to walk you through from start to finish, the entire planning process. I really hope this helped answer some of your questions and get you started in the right direction and help you feel equipped and confident planning your Disney vacation. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you are new, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you found this helpful, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.